I get asked all the time as a Cessna 310 owner, how much can your plane carry? Another question I get asked is, can you really fit 6 people in it? Also, what's your real world payload with full fuel, etc.? Of course, if you are an aircraft owner, you've probably realized by now that the quote-unquote standard empty weight you see published in magazine articles and the pilot's operating manual are typically optimistic. So when I'm referring to real-world empty weights, I'm talking about what are the typical weights that you see in actual aircraft out in the fleet. I've owned 2 310s, and as I will show shortly, I feel that the numbers that I will present are likely representative of the weights that you see in the fleet, but with the disclaimer that I'm only showing 2 data points. So let's look at an overview of how you can load your Cessna 310Q. Row 1 is obviously the pilot and co-pilot seats. Row 2 is seats 3 and 4, which is the middle row. And row 3 are the aftmost seats, seats 5 and 6. Row 3 is also baggage station 96, so you could put bags in the seats, or you can take one or both of the seats out and use that for larger items. And then the main baggage compartment is baggage station 124, which will take 160 pounds. So myself and a lot of other fellow owners like to take out seat number 6. So let's have a look here inside the baggage compartment. You can see where the seat goes. That's station 96. You can put 200 pounds there with the seats out. And then here's station 124 and what it looks like. Let me take you now through the weight and balance spreadsheet. There are 3 aircraft on here. The aircraft in green is the current airplane that I own. It's a 1974 Cessna 310Q. The aircraft in yellow was the airplane that I owned about a decade ago. It was a 1970 Cessna 310Q. And in red, I have a weight and balance sample problem from the pilot's operating handbook for the airplane. Here's the sample problem. One thing I want to point out here is that in 1974, they obviously had something called the licensed empty weight, and that didn't include oil. I wouldn't put 12 quarts of oil in each of my engines, but realistically, I would say that you could add another 30 pounds approximately to this weight that's here, 3411, that I show in the spreadsheet. But just point that out. Most aircraft nowadays, when they're weighed with oil in the engine. Continuing through the spreadsheet, I show the useful load for the 3 aircraft, 1760, 1717, and 1889 pounds. I show the empty weight, arm, and moment. The tip tank fuel, which is a maximum of 100 gallons or 600 pounds. The aux fuel, which is a maximum of 40 gallons. The pilot, the front passenger, the second row passengers, and then finally the third row passengers. Baggage station 96, which is again as if you remove row 3 seats, one or both. Baggage station 124, which is the aftmost baggage area, and the wing locker baggage. And that gives you the total weight, arm, and moment. Then I do what's called a weight check, just to tell you if you're under or over maximum gross weight and how many pounds. Green if you're under, red if you're over, your startup weight, and your arm. Next, on the right-hand side, I show the center of gravity moment envelope plot. The red dashed line to the left is the forward CG limit. The red dashed line to the right is the aft CG limit. And then the horizontal red dashed line at the top is your maximum gross weight, 5,300 pounds. and then I plot the 3 aircraft, and the colors correspond to the various aircraft. So the green diamond is the airplane I currently own. The yellow triangle is the 1970 Cessna 310Q, the plane I previously owned, and then the red is the sample problem. And again, that's probably about 30 pounds lighter than it should be because it doesn't include oil. A note about fuel endurance. There's a video I did on Cessna 310 real world performance where I discuss how I created this, but needless to say, if you fly high like I do and fly about 55 to 60% power, your endurance with just the tip tanks full is roughly 4.5 hours till your engines quit. And with full fuel, it's about 6 hours and 15 minutes. So you can back out from that how much fuel you need based on how much reserves you'd like to land with, but just kind of gives you a rough idea of how far you can go. And this will become apparent as we go through the various loading scenarios about how much people and fuel you can put on board. So let's look through the various loading scenarios now. First question is, what is your full fuel payload? So if we load up the plane with 140 gallons of fuel, which is 840 pounds, how many pounds of people and bags and stuff can you take in the airplane? So the answer is, with the airplane completely full of fuel, you can take somewhere around, and I'm just going to interpolate or round these numbers off and average them. You can take somewhere between, let's say, 870 and 1,000-ish pounds between these 3 different airplanes. As you can see, with the tanks loaded up, you're in a favorable center of gravity location. You're kind of a mid to slightly forward center of gravity position. Now let's add a pilot and a passenger. For the pilot, I'm going to put my weight, which is 210 pounds. And then for the other passengers in the next few scenarios, I'm going to use the standard FAA adult, which is 190 pounds. I believe that's in the summer. I think in the winter it's 195. And I've added a bit of baggage in the very back baggage compartment at station 124 behind row 3 seats, and about 15 pounds in the wing locker because you're going to, as an owner, take your tow bar and chocks and a bit of oil and things like that. So that puts you now, with full fuel, that still puts you around 400, 550 pounds under maximum gross takeoff weight. And that's a kind of forward-ish center of gravity location. Now let's do full fuel, a pilot, and 3 passengers and baggage now. So what I've done is I've put seats 3 and 4 in the second row. I put 290-pound adults. I've now distributed the bags. We've got 100 pounds of bags now. I've put 60 pounds in station 96 and 40 in station 124. And we're now pretty much right at gross weight. And we're at a kind of mid-position center of gravity. I'm not really sure you would want to put 4 people in and go for 5+ hours, but that's what it looks like. A more realistic loading scenario would be this, where we just have the tip tanks full because you're taking 4 people and we're going just a few hours away and you want a bit of reserve fuel. It's IFR. Again, this puts you somewhere around 200, 350-ish under maximum gross takeoff weight. And again, in a mid-range center of gravity, nicely balanced out. Now let's keep the tip tanks full again, no AUX fuel, and let's load the plane completely up. So it'll be the pilot and 5 passengers and baggage. And we can't put full-size adults in the very back, to be honest. So let's add maybe a kid and a young adult, a teenager, and let's put 150 pounds behind row 3 seats. And now we're either at or just under maximum gross takeoff weight. Unfortunately, we're at a very unfavorable and dangerous center of gravity location. You can see that we're now at the aft limit. And once you burn fuel, on this next slide, I reduced the fuel down to 40 gallons. So let's say we land with 40 gallons. You can see we're aft of the limit now, so we cannot load the airplane up like that. So here's the ace up my sleeve. Let's have a look inside the wing locker, which is pretty voluminous. So here's the third row, station 96. It's the middle row. The aft baggage, station 124, is about here, where I'm pointing here. And then the wing locker, station 67. And it's not very high, but it definitely goes far forward. So if you can get backpacks or small bags in here, you can load these up. And they take a maximum of 120 pounds each. So you can get 240 pounds in the wing lockers between the two of them. Now let's use the ace up our sleeve, and let's put all 165 pounds distributed between the two wing lockers. And what you can see now is we're still right at gross weight, but we're kind of a mid to aft center of gravity range. And to be honest, I'm not sure I'd fill my plane up this heavy unless I was flying from a 10,000 foot runway at sea level, but it just shows you can load the plane up if you'd like. So to summarize, the empty weights of the two aircraft that I've owned have been around 3540 to 3580. I'm just kind of rounding here. Maximum gross weight for the 310Q is 5,300 pounds. Useful load has been around 1760 to 1720. And the full fuel payloads for both the aircraft has been around 920 to 880. To summarize what we can do as far as loading the airplane at takeoff, weight, two of you on board, pilot and passenger, with full fuel going on a long haul cross country and some baggage, you'll easily be anywhere from 420 to 460 under maximum gross weight with a forward center of gravity. 4 of you on board with just the tip tanks, which gives you around 3.5 hours plus an hour reserve and baggage. You're looking at being somewhere around 220 to 260 under maximum gross weight with a mid-range center of gravity. Load the plane up. 6 of you on board with just the tip tanks and baggage, especially with the bags in the back. You're out of CG. You'll be right at gross weight, but it's an unacceptable CG location. And that this is kind of the conclusion. If you're going to load the plane up, you need to put the bags, the final bullet point here, in the wing lockers to try to get them as far forward as possible. You'll be at a gross weight, but with kind of a aft center of gravity range. And I don't show it, but I did run the calculation to show it landing with 0 fuel. If that was the case, you'd still be in an acceptable center of gravity range. And again, I'm not sure I'd load myself up that heavy. I think that's a bit kind of pushing the limits, and then aft CG is not comfortable. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. This kind of shows you what you can do as far as loading the 310 up. If you're a prospective owner looking to buy, maybe you could take these numbers and play with them a bit and see if it works out for your family. Thanks for watching. More videos soon.